Blog Talk Radio. Good now, everybody. Happy this moment. You are listening to Divine Explorations with Jody Doty on the Positive Transformation Network. Today, I am so excited to have my friend, Marian Stenseth Evans, on the show. And this is also Domestic Violence Awareness, I don't know the exact title, Awareness Month. And Marian has an amazing journey that she's taken, amazing story to share. It has many lowlights, but many highlights. And she, like I said in my intro on the link, she is a force to be reckoned with. Now, I think it's rather ironic that we're in the middle of a big typhoon windstorm here in the Pacific Northwest where we both live. So I think it's appropriate that that Marian, the force that she is here with us and blowing into my show. So because she is just such an amazing person and has been through so much and is so resilient and inspirational. I just find her amazing. And I read her story again. She's writing or sharing her story in a book called The Journey from Surviving to Thriving that's going to be out hopefully soon. And oh my goodness, I just can't I can't say how much she has come from, what she started with and how she has kept her spirit, and she's soaring now. She's just amazingly blooming at 71. So anyway, with that long introduction, Marian, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jody, and I want to thank you for inviting me on it. This is a real privilege.
I'm so thrilled to have you.
I never thought from the first time I called you when I was still in the trenches that it would end up to this. It's amazing. You're amazing.
You're amazing. Okay, well, I also want to tell the viewers this is also a call-in show, and I think when you hear parts of Marian's story, and also I've increased the time in case we go over and you want to share your story or you have questions for Marian, the call-in number is 1-646-716-9645. So, but first, let's start at the beginning. A very good place to start, as they say. So tell us about your story.
Okay, I came from the country. I was a little Day Creek girl, lived outside of Cedar Woolley, and I was a surprise to the family. And so my sister was 7 years older than me, and they had a 120-acre farm with 6,000 chickens. And so I was raised in a chicken coop on Hank Williams, and I'm sure since the womb with my mom. And my dad, he was an alcoholic before I was born, so I didn't know him sober a day of my life. And he pretty much dismissed me. And when I was, after second grade, we sold the farm. We went into cows and milking. We had a fire where 4,000 chickens burned. Can't eat chicken to this day. And
no.
Oh, you smell that. I was 3 or 4, and I can't even go buy a Kentucky Colonel without, having a physical reaction.
Oh, I bet.
And so we moved into town, and my mom didn't know anyone there, and we were with aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone up in Day Creek. It was just a one-room schoolhouse with three classes. And I have great memories of there, but I do remember my mom tucking me under her arm and running through the woods to my aunt's house, who was my godmother, because of my dad terrorizing her. Well, she ended up having a nervous breakdown and when he divorced her, and he talked her into signing herself into Northern State Hospital. And in 2011, I was a contributor on M.J. McLaughlin's book, Under the Red Roof, concerning going to visit my mother there and the kids. And I was moved. He remarried immediately on the 31st of December to get the tax break. And I was left home. Well, he was during this 3-month period when I was 7 and a half, I was left home alone. No one came home. And so I made sure I went to school on time. I made sure I changed into my play clothes, and after I watched the Mickey Mouse Club, I would go visit my play friends in the neighborhood and see what their mama was cooking for dinner. And back in the 50s, everybody sat down at the same time for dinner, and all the scraps went out to the dogs. They didn't have dog food like they do now. And the dogs let me pick. I would pick which neighbor and what I wanted for dinner, and that's where I'd hang out. And the dogs would let me know, and they let me pick first, and that's how I survived. And then school let out, and I was still by myself, so I was still scared. So I registered for a Bible class. I would have something to do and not be obvious. And
you registered by yourself at 7 for a Bible class?
I forged their name.
Wow. How long did this period last where you were abandoned basically on your own by yourself?
3 months. And then one of my mom's aunts in Monroe kept calling for Mama, and if I answered the phone, I'd always make an excuse, because in those days, it's the old-type phone. You don't know who's calling. And I always made up an excuse, and she got suspicious and reported it to the CPA, and they came and got a hold of my dad, who worked in Cedro Woolley, but he was living with my first stepmother in Anacortes already.
And he never checked on you?
No. I would go up to them when school was in. I would go up to the lunch line and hope I would get to pass through, but I never. That fear that grows in you when you're a child, we were taught to respect our elders and to speak when spoken to, and to be seen and not heard. Okay, that was my generation, and that's what they knew. And so he must have paid my school lunches ahead, so I would have that food. But that's about all I could think he did. And I went and I stayed there a couple of years. I transferred to Anacortes. Still have great girlfriends from there, from the 4th, 5th grade through high school and stuff. Still in contact, and just wonderful. And but I had to sleep on the couch for a couple of years, and then they made me a cubbyhole bedroom. And my stepbrother was 15 years older than me, and so when my mom and dad, when they got divorced, she talked, my mom, and she was 14, she got married, so she wouldn't have to have a stepbrother. And so everybody was gone, and so my one girlfriend, Kathy, she'd go with me to Northern State to visit Mom, because we'd always meet up at the soda shop, and I'd make sure I earned money so she could, I could treat her and she could buy a pack of cigarettes. And how'd
you make money?
I ironed shirts, I mowed lawn, I did anything. You want your house clean? I can do anything. I've been on my own since I was 7.
Wow.
No, I don't have a wishbone. I have a backbone. I think I don't regret any of that, because it made me who I am today. So I would take nothing back, because this is my journey. This is where I finally, at 71, I have enough 20/20 vision that I can look back and rationalize and not be emotional about it and understand it.
Wow.
That's the difference.
And that's amazing, because you could have stayed in that bitter place, feeling abandoned and just give up. And yet
I could have went on the pity potty. I was told I'd always be a welfare unwed mother, and my motto is, watch me. I'm a stand up and deal kind of gal, and where everything in life is a blessing or a lesson, but be grateful for both, because the lesson could be a blessing in disguise. That has happened to me. And that's where I have a backbone and not a wishbone. Don't wish your life away. Live it.
Right.
Nobody guarantees you a rose garden, and even they have thorns.
There's always thorns, but you have more than many. So I mean, you really had to deal with so much, and then.
Well, I have such strong faith. I ask God in each one, what am I supposed to learn from this? And I always ask Him to keep me safe. He's been the best man in my life. He's always been with me.
Oh, thank God for that. Yes. Wow. So, okay, so we are now, you're in 4th grade, 5th grade. What, take me.
He didn't molest me until I was in the 7th and a half grade. Then then my dad and stepmom were at a church function in the evening when he did it, and he couldn't penetrate me, so he stuck it down my mouth. So, of course, I was in my room crying all night, and my dad yanked me out of bed in the morning and started drilling, and I was afraid to tell. They got him up. He said, yep, this is what I did, and it's time for her to go, and I got moved out that day. Didn't get to say any goodbye to any of my friends. I was just one of those people that would just disappear and reappear. Like a bad penny always returns.
Oh, man. And so really no stability. I mean, you never knew.
When at 8 and a half grade, my sister remarried her ex-husband, and he was an abuser, but they stayed married 66 years, and she just recently died a year ago. She's always told me my whole life, you got to be strong on this. You got to be strong. And I don't. And on every little picture I see from the old days, I'm always hanging on to her coattail. I got my hand on her shirt or something. So I think I get my strength a lot from her.
Yeah.
And that the world back there, and I just did what I needed to do to survive. And when I went back to Anacortes after being at my sister's, being sent away, I earned money, and I had a girlfriend that had her license that was 16, and I paid her to drive me to Mount Vernon and read my mom and dad's court papers, asked to talk to the CPS worker. I was all packed and ready to go in an orphanage.
Wow.
And they sent me back home, and before Christmas, when I was 12, I just turned 12. They sent me to my foster parents, who were 2 teachers in Anacortes, Ann Green and Erwin Knapp. And Erwin just died this last month. He was 89 and such a wonderful father figure. So up until 12, I was on real quicksand. There was no stability at all. The only thing I had to hold on to was God and myself and Jesus.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna take a pause here, put you on hold for just a minute with your story, because we have a caller, and I'm just gonna go ahead and take this call, and then we'll hold that thought. We'll pick it back up from there after the call.
Okay.
Hi, caller. You're on the line with Jody Doty and Marian Stenseth Evans.
Hey, Jody, and Marian, it's Dave Daley, the Monster Motivator. How are you guys?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for calling in.
Absolutely. I can't hear that story enough. Talk about inspiration. And we affectionately call her our Monster Moderator, because she was with us on Monster Motivator TV. But I just want to say something. When I first heard Marian's story on another podcast that I was actually on, that she called on, it just, I don't know, it just hit me, because I speak about, bullying and stepping up to the bully and getting your lunch money back in another way, obviously through, through fear barriers. But if anybody's looking for real life, real world inspiration coming from the real world, Marian's the one you want to talk to, because it's just so real, and it happens over and over and over again. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate, and maybe they just don't know how to get out of it. So that's what I love about Marian.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but David, it took me so long.
You what?
It took me so long.
Yeah, but you did. You did, and see, a lot of people don't.
Yes, I did. And I switched it from 71 to 17.
That a
you
girl.
Just flip the numbers.
All you do is put that.
I'm a flipper. And
yeah. I mean, it's just it's an awesome, amazing story that a lot of people need to hear. So I'm excited. I know you have some other things going on, and I'm excited to see how they all unfold. But I wanted to just wanted to call in and let the people know that, you know, this is real world, this is real life stuff, and it can be done. You can beat the bully. Don't think that you can't. So you're living proof, Marian, that you could do it.
Hey, Dave, one story. When I was home alone, then at 7.5, right? I had my bike under. I used to like to climb trees. Little boy was underneath, didn't know I was up in the tree, and he was stomping out all my spokes. I jumped out of that tree and kicked the you-know-what out of him.
Not a girl. Not a girl. Not a girl.
My bike was already broke. I might as well break him. He made me mad.
Absolutely, Marian. And here's what I love about that story. You can keep all the politically correct statements and make it sound so nice and so pretty, but the real world is the only way to stop a bully is to step up and get your lunch money back. And if there's any other way, show me, because that's how you do it. Exactly. You're living proof of the real world and the real word that people are looking for. So that's what I love about you, Marian.
Well, he never messed with me again.
There you go.
Isn't that, see how that works?
Yeah, it worked out great for me.
Absolutely. And you know, if you didn't, he would have done it all over again. So it's real. It's just real. So and I'm so excited to have you on our team. So I'm looking forward to, we'll have some shows next week, and I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in, Dave.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Yeah, I think she's a fabulous, fabulous addition to your show. She just brings a lot of high energy, and, you know, that's hard to do, to keep up with you, but she does it. She's a star.
No question. She's a star in the making, and what I love about it is just a win-win. I needed somebody that could be in her position to do that, and she was looking for some other things to do. So in my book, that's a win-win.
There you go. Absolutely.
Well, ladies, have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, Dave. Thanks for calling.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye now. So if people aren't aware, Dave just let us know, Marian has a very new stint that she's doing on Dave's show. And Marian, tell us just a little bit about that.
Well, what I do is I'm the Monster Moderator for all the comments that come into his show where people give shout-outs or ask questions. And I can see them on his page, and then he'll break from his interview, and I shout those out so that the people get acknowledged that are watching the show. It's really fun. I get to, hear the whole interview, very interesting guests, people I would never get to in contact with in my life. It's only through you and Dave and Kelly that I've been able to progress and have a real voice that is out loud.
They're absolutely out loud and sharing with so many people, and that's, it's your story and your voice makes such a difference, because Dave's right, this is the real world. These experiences are not sugar-coated. They're not things that are kind of swept under the carpet. You're sharing your story. You're sharing it in all of its raw vulnerability. I know you're going to be sharing it in the book when the book comes out. And, wow, as tough as it is, and you're a pretty tough lady, it's so inspiring to see how you've come out of this and kept your spirit. I mean, 7 years old, left totally abandoned, sharing your dinner with the neighbor dogs, years of abuse. So we're going to pick your story back up again, and I'll let you go from where you were before the call, if you remember where that was.
Yes, I do. It was where the social worker was taking me to my foster parents, and they had 3 small children. And 15 and a half, I'd been engaged to quote my daughter's father for a year, and his dad had spider cancer and had to go back to Michigan. So I had been such a good girl all my life, I was not made a ward of the court. And so we lied to my father and told him I was pregnant. My mother-in-law was like a mother to me, and I married Susan's father for his mother. That's why I married. I finally wanted, because she treated me like her daughter. She always wanted one, and I was it. I could do no wrong.
What time did? How old were you when you got married?
15 and a half. We got married in August, and I turned 16 in October. So, and 2 weeks after we got married, we went back to Michigan. We were the first couple to go to school together that were married. He graduated in 62. I graduated early in 63. And then he went in the Navy after he got graduated because he wouldn't get a job. But he was the first one that actually physically beat me and would take guns and put them in every orifice there was, with my daughter in the room after she was born. And he was messing with I couldn't live near base because he was too active. He didn't want a wife where he was doing his business. And so I lived out in Munford. I even had the KKK come visit me. I was a Yankee and didn't know better.
Oh,
and, well, that's a whole story.
That's a whole other chapter in itself. Wow.
Yeah, and I was 17, and so I packed up the U-Haul, and he got orders to go to C school in San Diego. So for a few days, we stayed in Memphis with friends of his from base, and the last night he tried to trade me, swap wives. Well, that wasn't happening. I wasn't even having anything to do with him. And
wait a minute, he tried to trade you?
Yeah,
swap?
He takes swipe wives. Yeah, I guess that's what they do in the Army, maybe. I don't know. But I was 17 and I hadn't gotten pregnant, and I finished school. And excuse me, stupid is not written on my forehead. And so I grabbed the keys and ran out and took a car and drove up to Elvis Presley's estate, hopped the fence. Remember, I was 17. Sat on the grass. I didn't try to go to the house, just sat on the grass by the fence crying and picking grass. And the security guard came out and talked to me and said, well, Elvis was making a movie in California, or he would definitely let me in the house. So he told me to go to this church, and that was open all night, and I would be safe there. Well, my ex didn't know I was down on Beale Street when he had his weekend doing at base partying with the music. I wasn't old enough to go in, but me and the boys sure taught me how to dance down there. The brothers know how, and they watched my car for me. And I had a really when I was by myself, I had a really good time and a great imagination. And so. I still have that grass from Elvis's yard, and I have the first street sign that was ever posted on his street, the old one.
On Elvis's street.
Yeah, I have collected Elvis stuff since the early 60s. Yeah, my whole kitchen is Elvis. I can't help it.
Wow. Well, pretty amazing.
And so then I pulled up to the house he was at the next day, hooked the trailer, the little U-Haul, and said, you're going to get your ass in the car. I'm pulling out. Excuse my language. And so he did, and we made it, stopped in California and saw his mother and the great-grandparents, and then he brought me back up to Washington, and my dad had a camper set up, and he was married to a different one this time. And I was allowed to go in to shower, but that's all. Otherwise, I lived in the camper. And he raped me the night before he left. And, of course, I didn't have my normal protection because we hadn't been doing anything. So take him to the bus station next day to go down to San Diego to see school. And I applied for jobs on the way home to Cedar Woolley. And they called before I got home. And, yes, I started the next day as the Woolworths counter girl, loved it. But I didn't have my monthly visitor, so I knew I was pregnant. So I didn't tell anyone. And the next thing I know, my mother-in-law is moving back up here, getting the same apartment, and we're going to be roommates. And, of course, when her son is stationed at Whidbey Island, comes to visit his mother, and there I am. So, again, I felt like I had no choice. So we stayed together until my daughter was 6 weeks old. They showed up again because, God forbid, I should stay at home with my daughter on my own and have a life.
Right.
And so I had to load up and still pay rent and utilities and go move to California for the 6 months he was in Okinawa. During that time, his brother and his wife were my maid of honor and my best man, and so they came to take me out to dinner in California because they were stationed in Alameda on my anniversary. And they told me that my husband was living with another woman and probably having another baby come along. So I made the move I didn't tell anybody, and I went to some friends of mine and told me, and I quietly moved out of my mother-in-law's place and was a nanny housekeeper incognito until he got back from Okinawa, and I met him at the plane so he could see his daughter and tell him in person that I'm divorcing you. I have let the house go and shipped everything. And your things are where I had put them. I didn't take anything of his. And instead, he almost killed me that night. Went back to the house, got the house back, nailed it shut, tried to get to the train station before it left. I was so glad that train had pulled out before him. The stuff was gone. While he was gone, he had nailed every window shut, the door shut, everything. So I just broke out the big window. Got my daughter. And
wait a minute. So he trapped you in the house, basically nailing everything shut so you couldn't get out?
Right. Like there's not a window I can break? How dumb are you? Or how dumb do you think I am? I mean, arrogant. And so took and broke out. There was nothing in the house because I'd shipped everything and give it up. And so I just took the bottom of my suitcase and took the biggest window and knocked it out, knocked all the glass out, got my daughter out, got the suitcases out. Went next door, and she was aware of what had been happening, an older lady. I said, I need to use your phone. I called my stepbrother, the one who molested me, and said, you owe me. Get me to the airport right now. And he did. And my daughter's father said he would have caught us, but he had a flat tire, but I don't believe that. But he went AWOL and found me in California, and I wouldn't take Susan with us, but I agreed to go talk to him about the details of the divorce, and that was a mistake because I was taken up on top of a mountain and raped and left naked and blah, blah, blah. Walked down off the mountain, got to a house. I covered up with leaves. I really am a modest person. And they gave me clothes to put on, and then he got arrested and went in the brig for a long time. And then I flew up for the second divorce proceeding, and he was in the Navy hospital in Whidbey Island with the mumps had gone down on him. So my dad drove me over there with my daughter so he could see his daughter. And so driving back, my dad was so drunk he was scraping the rocks on the side by Deception Pass coming down.
Oh my! I know Deception Pass. That's very scary. And so you kind of reunited with your dad a little bit just for that, or?
For 2 days, I was going to be here, go to divorce and fly back.
Yeah.
And so there was no divorce proceeding to go to the next day. And he said, well, you have to let him see his daughter. So I said, fine, we'll go. And then when he was my daughter was in the car. And he'd missed the turn and gone. He said, no problem, we'll dip down through this gully. There were no car seats in those days, okay? And so when I'm coming back, he must have had a few more tips. Well, we were there, it was worse. And so I quietly reached over and turned the car off, took the keys, and said, "Get out." And I used some choice words. "I'm driving."
Yeah.
And so we kind of had it out right there alongside the road with my daughter sitting in the car going, huh? You know?
How old was your daughter?
My daughter was 2 by this time.
Wow.
And she goes, "Mommy, you don't yell." And I go, "See, this man, I do. You either get in the car or get left on the roadside. Get in the car." And my daughter looked at him and goes, "She means it." And so he got in. I drove home. We never said another word to each other. Then I'm working after I get back. Jerry and Glenn got me on my feet and in a little apartment and got a job at a donut shop. And I see my father's camper out in front. He won't come in the shop. So I walk out to the camper and knock on the door, and I go, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Well, your sister and mother-in-law and trying to take your daughter away from you." And I said, "What for? There's no reason." "Well, they sent me here because you're my kid." And I said, "I thought I wasn't your kid." I said, "Why are you concerning yourself with this?" And so I got no child support. I worked 2 jobs to support us. So he followed us to the daycare a block from my house, checked it out, got Susan, went to my apartment. He opened every cupboard, the refrigerator. It was all had food in it. It was all clean. Nothing there was they couldn't have a reason to send anybody there.
Yeah.
They looked like fools. And so I then went and I ended up getting married to a guy 11 years older than me because he had 4 kids, and I always wanted a big family, and he would beat me. And another one was annulled. It wasn't even real. It was after I'd given up my birth son, and I just wasn't in reality. I had broken, and I didn't care about anything. And
I'm gonna pause you again. Sorry to do that. And we got another call. We have another caller on the line, and I want to get back to this part of the story after this call. But I'd like to take the call if you're okay with that.
I'm great with that.
Okay, 1 minute. Hi, caller. You're on the line with Jody Doty and Marian Stenseth Evans. Do you have a question for Marian or want to share something?
I just wanted to say thank you. It's Alana, and I heard Dave's call earlier, and I wanted to just say thank you for being such an encouragement to me along my journey as well with my new book. So, because a lot of people doubted me, and you were one of the ones from the beginning that read the book and supported it and put a review up and did all that stuff to help me succeed. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Are you there, Marian?
Well, Alana, I want to say thank you for IMing the whole time you were writing on that book. It was so much encouragement for me to see a young girl like you with your abuse to overcome it, and it took me so long. What an encore, girl.
Thank you.
Great. If people, listeners aren't aware, Alana has Alana, tell us the name of your book and how people can find it.
My book is called The Newfound Legacy. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble supply lineup, which means you can order it on their website or in-store, and they'll pick it up. And hopefully it will be in bookstores, more bookstores soon. It's also on Kindle.
And it's Alana's story of overcoming child sexual abuse and the death of a parent at an early age and bullying and so many other really challenging things. And Alana's 18 now. She wrote this at 17, but these 2 gals, and we have the young version and the older version, just are a testament that you can get through the most horrible things and be an inspiration and survive it and be an inspiration to other people and encourage them to get through it and not let it break your spirit.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for calling in, Alana.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, guys.
I want to say, Alana, is why waste your life like I did through temporary. I always left when I got physical at 3 years, right? Alana is way ahead of me in breaking that cycle. She has nothing but to soar from now on.
Oh, thank you.
Amen. All righty. Well, thanks for calling, Alana, and just keep soaring. I know you will.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you, watching you do it.
I know you guys are keeping it secret.
Yeah.
What?
Well, what?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
We'll share in a little while.
I know you will, when the time is right.
Absolutely. Okay. Bye now. Okay. Yeah, I think that's such a kick that she called in, and you know, you're two of my favorite people, and again, really, and I'm serious. I don't say this lightly. How amazing that you come from nearly being killed, both of you, basically nearly being killed, and not letting it break your spirit, letting, finding within, the courage within and the strength within and the power within yourself to kind of overcome, the worst and make the best of yourselves. I mean, that's what we all need to do, but some of us don't have these tough lessons, but I think in a lot of ways they grow your soul even more.
Well, I volunteer for the Village Community Services for many years now in the music department, and the clients are with disabilities. So if you want to think you have a problem, just go to one of their functions and see how happy they are and how much they live life.
Beabsolutely. Wow. Okay, so let's get back to your story.
Okay, well, after being abused and then temporary marriages, I was with Howard, was the only one who didn't beat me. He was the keyboard player, and Billy was on drums, and Ed Gibson on sax, and he's a couple months older than me and was up visiting a couple years ago and is gigging on and having a great time.
What was the name of his band?
Towaway Zone.
Towaway Zone.
That right. Then he was Burgundy and Black Pearl, and he ended before he died. He was with the San Francisco Symphony.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got to meet a lot of all the greats that played at the Fairmont would come down and do after hours in Fremont. So I got to meet Santana's conga player that would set in with the guy. I mean, Jack Jones, they fronted that. Then they got in, they were house band at the Red Coach. And I don't know, he is my one true love because he loved me unconditionally when I had a colostomy. And, a lot of men that would have just said, well, see you later.
Yeah.
But it's only for 3 months. So it was when I first got it, and I was in the hospital, and we had taken a theater class together at Berkeley years before, him and Linda and I. So we stayed in contact and had vacations together up at the same time next year type of thing. Very honorable, but we just enjoyed each other's company. And my mom, we came up here to visit early in 75, and my dad had died in 70, and my sister said, well, Mama can come out and live in the world. She was at Delta Rehab Center in Snohomish then and working, feeding and cooking in the kitchen and stuff. Beautiful ceramic. Oh, yeah, she enjoyed her life quite the much, but she had the safety that my father could not get to her. Once he died, that fear disappeared. I understand that. I now understand that, and it freed her. And so my sister and Howard and I said we'd come up and visited and taken Mama camping, and Mama fell in love with him immediately. And we said, sure, she can come down here and live with us, not a problem. Well, my sister wouldn't allow it. And my mom could live with her and her husband because they'd been part of the problem back in 1953, so I was it. So Howard understood I needed to heal that with my mother more than love him daily, that we would always have our love. No one could take it from us or our connection, and they never did. And I came up and gave my mom a life, and that was the most reward. She lived to a week less than a 91.
Wow.
And the last thing I did was crawl in bed with her the day that she was dying and told her, Mama, it's okay if you go. You don't have to wait for me anymore. I'm okay.
Wow.
And that I will always treasure because I always love sleep. And the way that the picture shows, the way that she's comforting me. What a mom. What a mom. What a wonderful mom. That gave me lessons I would have never known if she'd have been around every day. I had no one to rebel against. It was great.
You only had you.
Yeah. Well, and my foster mom said you were always joining everything, looking for something, and I finally realized I was looking for myself.
Absolutely.
And for one, I finally found it. You know, and I'm not an advocate for the court system or the domestic violence law, and yes, I am going to change that. And I mean, if you can protect an animal before you can protect a woman with harder laws, I'm sorry, your system is broke.
Absolutely.
And
Talk about that. Talk about what happened with the court system and your experience with the release.
Well, it took 7 times of him being arrested and in jail, which is not free, probation, counseling, classes, cost me over $100,000 to help this man.
Wow.
He did not get jail time till the 7th time. Well, no, I'm sorry. On the 6th time, he got 6 weeks at SCORE, which is a campus jail. He told friends of mine that he missed the guys in there. They were a lot of fun after he was locked up the last time. Then the last time, it was 2.5 hours of smothering and passing out, and my face will be scarred the rest of my life. And yes, it took me 2 months to heal. But he was in jail since December 22nd, and on March 6th, I had all my paperwork, everything filed, and he got served divorce papers because he was going to go for a jury trial on March 15th, and I had been subpoenaed. And so we had offered him 180 days, 5-year protection order, and probation. He refused and said, time served, 120 days, free ticket out. We said, no, we'll go to jury. He got my divorce papers and decided to let the judge sentence him, which sentenced him to 364 days in the Snohomish County jail, not the campus jail. But if she sentenced him one more time, he would have went to state jail.
Yeah.
So she did him a favor there. Okay? He got out after 118 days because the jail was too crowded, and it was just for beating a woman.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry. Attempted murder is attempted murder. I don't care what gender you are, what relationship you have. The facts speak for themselves. And I have written the Attorney General, the Governor, and I am just getting started.
Wow.
I want that law to be the same as a felony. If 3 strikes, you're out, or first time if it's physical, because there's a lot of grooming, like a pedophile, when they're mentally, emotionally, verbally abusing you and programming you to take the physical abuse and not leave them. To believe I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. Baloney.
And so many women stay in that. I mean, so many women, because they're so beat down, they you know, or they have nowhere else to go. They'll believe that, and they'll stay.
The last year when he was in jail in 2014 with the domestic violence people, I made a exit plan. I can say it now because it no longer applies. But since then, I have told during that time, I told no one. That exit plan was to get about a half a block to three-quarter block from my apartment to the fire station in a locked facility. I had a flip phone for that purpose only with that number, phone number. I didn't have a name. I didn't know who. And I'd call that number, and they would come to the fire station, show identification, pick me up, take me to a shelter or safe house. I was willing to walk out with the clothes on my back and save my life. You do not go to heaven with anything that you have. You go to heaven with your soul and your heart and your mind.
Amen.
And I'm sad. I don't need material. I'm not a material girl.
Yeah.
I just have never been because I've never been entitled to it. I had to buy my own school clothes. I had to take care of myself from a very young age.
And I know you worked, like you said, you had to support yourself really from the time you were, 7, really.
I worked, 5 years at P&B. I was cocktail waitress, food waitress, bartender on the side, and then I worked at P&B for 5 years in California, Pacific Northwest Bell, the phone company. And they had what was called, the long cord boards. I worked them. I'm an old-timer. And they had the first computerized one was called TSPS. So I chose to do that instead of be in charge. And when I did that, it was really good. I left and moved to Washington, and I didn't want to drive to Seattle every day from Linwood, so I applied at GTE. Well, I started out as operator and then went to peg count, where I did measurement studies and flew out every other week in our Learjet to 5 different states, giving the operators their standard work time. Mm-hmm. And then, I worked in supply. I worked in the main supply, the satellite supply. All of that gave me great tools. One served the other. Well, they found out I had worked. GTE was getting that TSPS equipment going from the old cordboard and computerizing. They found out I had actually worked it, so they obviously would like to get cited as an instructor. Sure. They didn't tell me it was in Beaverton, Oregon.
Oh, down in Oregon.
Yeah, and so my daughter and I ended up moving down there, and we were there 8 years, so about 78, 79, we moved down there, and I was instructor and in charge. I worked at Mount St. Helens. When it blew up, I was in charge on the desk, and I was there till midnight that night, from 6 o'clock in the morning till midnight once I was working, 6 to 2:30. But the phone company is like a utility. Everyone is called in, every position.
Oh, sure. Oh, I bet.
I mean, and we had mounds of ash. In fact, I just gave my last one to Travis's dad because in one of his sermons he mentioned the force of that mountain was 7 times the amount of the Hiroshima bomb. And we felt it. It was closer to our office than it was to any major city in Washington.
Holy cow. I actually drove through. We drove through, not right after the initial one, but then they had some afterwards with the ash and whatnot. And
they had buildings high.
Yeah.
I mean, and I had walked to work that day because it was really nice out. And my daughter was 16, and I called immediately when I knew it blew. I called her, and she had her boyfriend coming over. And I said, go in my drawer and get a pair of nylons, cut them up, put them over the carburetor, and have him put it over the carburetor, and you kids don't go anyplace today.
Right. Ruined so many cars. And that's one of the scariest times in my life, because I was pregnant at the time, but we were coming back from a wedding, and we actually had to drive through, coming from Idaho back up here to Washington, and we could not see but my father and I couldn't see but maybe a yard in front of him with the ash, because it's like white. I mean, it's just like a whiteout, like a blizzard.
It's a powder. It's so fine. I mean, it literally got into our hermetically sealed windows and into our central office and messed with our equipment. It's so fine.
That was just, well, see, you have things just exploding all around you, always. Always big things happening. In fact, while you were talking, I heard a transformer blow somewhere by me, and the wind is picking up right here. So I was like, oh, good, we still have the phone line, because I was really afraid we were going to lose power. But it was right about the time. It was right about the time you were saying the mountain blew, so I thought that was pretty funny. Like sound effects.
Yeah, 1980 to now, and then let's see. Then I was in my house, for 16 years, and then I moved to Florida. I was only going to stay a year. The kids came down and visited me on Easter for 3 weeks, and I ended up staying 3 years. And when I told my ex, we had just been, I didn't think it was nothing serious. I mean, he'd asked me to marry, but I thought it was a joke. I'd been single for 20 years. I was never one to parade men in front of my daughter or my grandchildren. My home was my castle. And unless I married you, you did not you didn't get invited to the thing. You didn't get introduced.
Right.
I had friendships, but they were friendships. And I started counseling at age 40 because it just got too painful. It physically got, what Dave said when he was on Kelly's show, he said her immune system rebooted. Oh, my God, that is so true. That is so true. There is nothing wrong with me where I was very serious at the time.
Yeah.
I was ready to say goodbye. Physically, I was very serious, having serious problems from the stress. Once the stress is gone, I don't have any physical problems. What a deal.
So how did you come out of that? What was it? What helped to bring you out of that dark place?
Well, he knew when he came back in 2014, I tried every mission, every shelter, everything, me and his attorney. I did not want him to come home. I'd already sent the wedding ring to his granddaughter, for her 13th birthday, because I give my girls a diamond ring on their 13th birthday. Always have. And I because they're the diamond of my eye, and so I sent it. I didn't have any money, so I sent her my wedding ring because I was pretty much done. I've been a caretaker. He had diabetes. I've been his caretaker for a long time. He was a perfect gentleman. I saw morals, integrity. I saw everything of that in him. He can do it. He don't do it to me. Once I signed that marriage license, it immediately started to change. He called me his dead wife's name. He forgot my name.
Wow.
And I told him, I said, I was never your bride. I was never your wife. I've only been your friend. It started out that I met him to pay his dad and mom's house taxes. And I had, so I did that and thought nothing of it. Fine. God's always taking care of me. I certainly wouldn't want an elderly couple. They did a reverse mortgage anyway, but...
So you were paying it forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to get a new computer, right? And I thought, well, that's rather selfish of me when somebody's not going to have a home. I mean, I just don't have the heart for that. Money to me, money can pass through I'm just not a material girl. Yeah. I'm just not. I like simple.
You're a heart woman. You're all about the heart and the soul.
Yep. And he had gotten one day he liked to rage at me, and I went to counseling 2 years before he did to the one he ended up going to by court order, and he would take it out on me every time I went because he thought we were talking about him. Well, no, we were talking about me. And how do you handle it? Do you engage in an argument? What's the thing you would say if I said this?
Right.
And and so I got to learn not to take it personal. And it really wasn't about me. He was fighting with his demons himself. And he needed an audience, and I chose not to attend.
There you go.
And that was pretty simple. And that's how come I started my quote page and sharing your poems and stuff on my quote page, how I got to know you.
Yep, and I remember that, yep.
That's how I got to know you, so I just stay busy on the quotes, reading positive affirmations, looking at beautiful pictures, keeping my mind, clean, thoughtful.
Absolutely.
In the moment. My
in the moment,
book.
And that's the key, not to, start from today. I always say that. Be home to you. Start from this moment. You're the sum of everything that's happened, but you're not don't have to be the victim of everything that happened. You take what you've been through, put it in a big old tear in your case and release it, and then just live from this moment and live to the hilt, which is what you're doing. I know when you were talking about you were in the band, you also are, not only are you writing, you wrote a chapter for this book, The Journey from Surviving to Thriving. Frankly, there's a lot of us that really believe you should just write, and I think maybe you are writing your life story. You really need to do this. It's such, it will have such an impact on so many people. But also you are a poet. And you're a lyricist. You've written music. I know you talked about your time with the band. Can you talk about that? And also, I do want you to share, after you talk about that, I do want you to share your poem we talked about the domestic violence. And there you go.
We had an old, what I called the Caterpillar, because he had an old Pontiac station wagon that the Leslie would fit in. And big organ, and so we had the hardest load, and that and the drums, and so my daughter, she was about 8, 9, and we'd go in during the daytime to set up, right?
Yeah.
Because at the house band on the weekends when they would play after hours, they would dismantle. And then we would go in on Monday and set up. Well, it was usually when she got out of school, so we let her carry in the bags of the cords and the stuff she couldn't break, right?
Right.
And, and it was a restaurant, a really nice restaurant bar, and so kids could be in the restaurant part, right? And so she'd be carrying, we'd be setting in, and they'd go, who's this kid in here? And she goes, I'm with the band. So that was before they were making up T-shirts. So we had a T-shirt I made for her that she had to wear every time we loaded. Was the roadies. She goes, on the front was, I'm with the band, I'm a roadie. And on the back was always on. And so nobody asked her after that. And a friend of ours, Fred, he was extra in a lot of movies. So I got to go to a lot of movie sets. The Towering Inferno up at the top of the California building.
Wow.
We've gone to dinner up there, the Carnelian Room. It's like the guys have to wear suits and ties, and the ladies' menu doesn't have prices on them. And got to go to plays and then he couldn't go, but I had my he got me a pass, and I got to go up. I got Susan off to school and was going out the door, and a friend of mine came up, and he said, where are you going? I said, Victorville. And he goes, I want to go. And I said, you don't have a pass. And they had it all roped off, with the police. And so we get up there, and I get up right before their lunchtime. I had to stand out the side of they were filming in the church, The Klansman with Lee Marvin, Elizabeth Taylor, and Richard Burton scene. And I was beating a grip, up on top, the microphone grip. up in the balcony, and so I stood along the side of the church door, and out they came, the limousines came and lined up, and so he came out, saw me, he goes, come on, get in the car. And I got in the limo and drove off and went up to the ranch and had lunch with them all, and we came back after 2 hours, and I told him, I said, I got a friend over, so I motioned to him, showed my badge to the policeman, and I motioned to him, and he said, okay, he could come, and so I told him, be quiet as a mouse, you cannot say anything. And in between breaks, you know, the guy was kind of coming on to me, well, you should come up for dinner and just spend the night. I said, no, I got my daughter in school, I have to go home. And so my friend was going, he's coming on to you. And I go, well, I'm in my 20s, so what? And so, yeah, so I came home so I got to see a lot of that. And I met James Caan. It was Fred's scene. He was one of the firemen standing along the building as James Caan was running by, and that's when he looked good. And
I know before the show, I know you told me a story that about one of my favorites, Chris Christopherson, too. For
Oh, that was when I was married. When that marriage was annulled, he was 13 years younger than me. So
wow.
We had tickets at the fair, the front row seats. So I went in and said, okay, hold these seats right in front. I got to go to the bathroom. Well, I'd already checked out where the bus was, and we'd walked around and where he couldn't see me. So I just went out and was talking to the roadies, and Chris came out of the van, and he goes, oh, there she is. And I went, not what you think. I just want to tell you, I think you're prolific writer, and I love your lyrics coming down Sunday morning. I mean, you are a fantastic writer. And he goes, well, come on, little lady, come on in. And I said, well, okay, but I'm just coming in. And he laughed. He goes, don't worry, I won't hurt you. And I said, that's what all you guys say. And so I went in, and I went in, and we had a shot of, I don't know what it was, some kind of mood bourbon, I know that, right? And we talked for like 15 minutes, and then I go, you got to get to your gig. You're going to be late. And he goes, you sound like a musician, old lady. And so I went out and went back in, and I had a Tic Tac in my pocket, and I threw it in my mouth and sat down next to my husband, and he looked at me. He goes, what took so long? I said, oh, there was a line at the bathroom. And I said, you know how women are. They take their time. And so then he goes, smells like you've been drinking. And I know I don't drink. And so, because my stomach issues, I can't. I said, you smell Tic Tac. You don't, what?
Yeah.
Where are you going, right? And so during the performance, Chris blew it because he looked right. I was in the front row. He goes, there's one little lady that can take a shot. And my husband looked straight at me like, sure. Like, and I said, and I looked around like, who is he talking about? Like, he couldn't be talking about me. And Chris just cracked up on stage like, you're with your old man.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I've been on Clint Black, Charlie Daniels, sat in with B.B. King. It was wonderful back in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, you have lived more life than, 10 people. I mean, really.
I'm like a cat. I'm in my 9th life, I think, and I finally come into my own.
You definitely have. I want you to share your poem. I know too that you've written lyrics for the band, and that you're just a really wonderful writer. But I think this is a very touching piece, and would love you if you would like to be able to share that on the show.
Okay. I wrote, and this was in the book, and also for domestic violence, what I read at the end. There is no more cry left. There is relief and joy. There is peace of mind. There is lack of stress. There is hope. No one can steal my soul. God protects me and loves me. I pray I learn the lesson this life holds. I have put a lot of living into 7 decades. I plan to live in the moment and to be to the very end of life on this earth. I am an enabler. I will give you enough rope to hang yourself all the time thinking I'm being understanding and having empathy to your needs and your conditions, all the time hurting myself because I forget me. When you have no more to give, you are empty. You don't want to be more alone with someone than without them in your life. You think about the woman you want to be in your life. You want and make it happen. You are a woman. You can do it. Look at all you've endured and survived, and now it's time to thrive in whatever that means to you. Find yourself. This experience has changed you. At what it taught you, and jump for joy. You don't have to be hurt anymore. You can be anything you want. I feel contented, joy, grateful, and blessed. It was worth all the effort and time to be free. What do you think of this newfound freedom? Contentment. My new adventure is the excitement of rediscovering myself and life again. I have healed and moved on and looking forward to this new chapter.
Wow, I just love that. That's fabulous. And how and just watching you, you know, I know how long has it been that we first connected? But I've just seen you soar your soul so much in a short time.
Oh, I did go through a couple months of nightmares. It did have an effect on me that I had to work through. I did have a 22-hour meltdown when he got released after 118 days.
Right.
You know, and I contacted you immediately to help me get through that. So I will use whatever tools I can to keep me whole and to work through it. Life is full of life. I don't want to miss a second. You know, I just
absolutely. And so, what's the next chapter?
The next chapter is I am going to focus on the poetry book and getting it finished because I have it all written. Just have to do the picture thing, and then I'm going to do the autobiography. But I know I'm going to need a ghostwriter on that because of all the stories. A lot of the lyrics that I wrote, I've turned into poems, like When You're Feeling Down or Let Me Love were two that he did. My signature song is If by Bread. And every time I walked in on the gig, the guys would play it for me. Every time my daughter came to the gig at a new opening or something where she could sit and hear the music, they would play Susie Q. So...
I know you have a fondness for Tinkerbell, too.
Oh, I do. Yes, I'm the little orphan fairy that just likes to sparkle.
And did you get your tattoo?
No, I didn't. I got my flu shot, and I had the pharmacist. I said, look at my old skin. The grandkids want me to get my tattoo. And I said, I think my skin's too old for that. And he found a spot behind my ear, and I said, I think that will hurt. And so, no, I didn't.
No, you've had enough pain. You don't need that.
I'll get one of the fake ones when I want to put on there. But I do want to thank, first of order of gratitude goes to who believed in me and encouraged me to write, which is you. And thank you to Lisa Evans. She was the one person who stood behind me, and on a personal level, you know, she's my friend, but the fact that she never gave up on me, I was never alone, and I could confide in her, and she would give me straight up honest advice for my own good, and even if I didn't like hearing it.
That's a good friend.
That's a good friend. And between you and her and my family, everyone has supported me and is so happy for me to finally be free. You know, but this time, the 118 days he was in gave me time to get the divorce and the protection order, so that's what I needed to do. But I had to wait until he was ready. but the last year he was here, we were roommates.
Yeah.
Strictly roommates. So I had to break that tie, and he asked me one day after the counselor, he goes, Marian, do you love me? And I said, I am your friend, and I will take care of you, but you pushed me so far away, I don't think I can ever come back to you. He had a pornography issue. He lied to me constantly. I don't need that. But
no.
It's very scary getting out at the end. But ladies,
what
you,
advice? Yeah, give advice. What would you tell someone who's? I actually have experienced this with some relatives, and I know how scary it is. What is your advice?
Stay quiet. Don't engage in arguments. Don't take things personally. Set your plan in motion. And if he's not beating you yet, he's verbally, mentally, emotionally abusing you, he will beat you. Mm-hmm. He will get to the point that he has no impulse control and you will be injured or killed. So whatever you have to do, stay calm, stay in control of yourself. Only you can change yourself. You can't change anyone else. And learn how you deal with it. Don't take it personal. Stay quiet. Don't engage in arguments. Mm-hmm. And have a plan together.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And have a plan together. And if you can, somehow wiggle the way into getting a part-time job so you have financial assistance, or call one of the health lines. They will give you opportunities that you don't realize is at your access. I want to broadcast what the domestic violence people and the shelters can do for women with children or without children. Women are of value.
Amen. And that just for any listeners that this really resonates and hits home to you, I do want to give the National Domestic Violence Hotline number. It is 1-800-799-SAFE. So that is 1-800-799-7233. And it's, 24/7 confidential support. You don't, there's help out there. There's help. And any last words, any last thoughts or things you would like to share with the listeners?
Well, if I can do it at 70, 71, you can do it. And I can tell you it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. And I have only positive things to look forward to. I don't feel any stress at all. It's just so wonderful to get to know myself again. Sometimes I surprise myself.
Well, I think you're fabulous. You're just, like I said, you're fearless, you're enthusiastic, you're outspoken, you're sassy, and you're fabulous. And I just adore you, Marian. And I can't wait to hear what you're going to do, picking up this cause, dealing with the courts, trying to get something shifted, get the awareness out. And then just personally, I'm watching your star shine, You're just, like you are Tinkerbell. You're sparkling all over the place. And thank you so much for being on the show.
I thank you for inviting me. You have a good day.
Okay, on that note, have a great day on this journey called life.